Stay tuned for the Splash Live. It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the Greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. Tonight, the doors are officially opening on a building for commerce and community. The grand opening of the newest Chaldean Community Center located right here in Greater West Bloomfield. The celebration kicks off tonight at 6 o'clock p.m. and will feature appearances from Bishop Francis Calabat and Bishop Ibrahim as they hold a special blessing for the new building alongside other bishops, clergy, and community leaders. Just a short while ago, I spoke with Tom Haji, a board member with the Chaldean Cultural Center, and he gave me a sneak preview of what kinds of amenities will be available with this new building.
This facility will be mainly for cultural competency, cultural awareness. So we're going to have a library that will host a lot of our old manuscripts dating back to 500 AD. We'll have the only Chaldean museum. We're moving it from Shenandoah to our facility here and doubling its size. Again, the only Chaldean museum in the world right now, unfortunately. But we'll have a TV radio station. I'm actually sitting inside the TV studio, as you can see the backdrop there, trying to keep up with you guys. But we have a theater, we have a gymnasium, we have a community kitchen. We'll have classes to teach the community, Chaldean and non-Chaldean. Everyone is welcome to come and sit on the classes and learn our food, learn our heritage, learn about our culture. It's going to be exciting.
So many great features that are now going to be available for the Chaldean community within West Bloomfield. And that's a really great studio room that Tom Haji was in. And Tom went on to explain to me why a place and an environment like this one is so important to the community.
Well, it's definitely a big milestone for us. In 2008, we did a survey. Walsh College conducted a survey where there was only 100,000 Chaldeans in Michigan, and we recently refreshed that survey. We're roughly around 200,000 Chaldeans, so it's a huge milestone. We finally have a voice not only in Michigan but in Washington, D.C. and around the world. Our president has recently visited the Middle East, and we're building bridges there as well. So our voice is being heard all the way through the state capitol, D.C., and around the globe. So it's a pretty big deal for such a small community. You know, there used to be over 1 million Chaldeans in Iraq, not too long ago, and now there's less than 200,000. And so this is our new home.
As Tom mentioned, that voice that he's talking about is very important for everybody to hear. And it's even gotten to the point where at their soft opening back in May, Governor Gretchen Whitmer even made an appearance to welcome the community and to highlight the brand new building. And of course, this building hopes to send a broader message to the Chaldeans of the Greater West Bloomfield community. And Tom Haji had this message to say to young Chaldeans.
Well, they should be proud. They should be proud to be Chaldean. They should get more involved. We the next generation. I know if we don't keep our language and our heritage going, we're going to lose it, and we don't want to do that. We have a very long history, over 5,500-year history, and Jesus spoke our language, and it's something to be proud of and something to get more people involved. So we need the youth to get more involved, and we have a very strong community here in West Bloomfield and Sterling Heights, and we just ask that everybody make their way through and see how we can keep the growth going.
It's going to be an amazing night for the Chaldean community and for everyone in Greater West Bloomfield. I'm going to be out at the event tonight at 6 o'clock p.m. to capture all of the action, and you can see everything very, very soon in the coming days on Civic Center TV. But we appreciate Tom for telling us all about this incredible building and what it's going to be bringing to Greater West Bloomfield. Recently, a powerful and motivating event took place at the Greater West Bloomfield Township Public Library to benefit business women throughout the community, and it emphasized the power of communication. I was there to capture everything and to hear why it was so important for everyone to come out to that event.
Well, I'm with Great Lakes Women's Business Council, and we certify women-owned businesses in Michigan and Indiana. So we are a sponsor of this event, and we've done it the last couple years, and it's been great. We get a great panel of women up to talk about how they've thrived in their business, and it's an amazing event to network with other women in the community.
Well, anything that promotes women in business and helps enhance networking is a great thing in my book. I think we all grow together and learn together, so it's just a really great opportunity to get to know folks, get to understand, share what I know, and learn from others.
What would you say are some of the biggest takeaways that everybody could gain from tonight?
I think the number one thing is really perfecting your pitch or your first 30 seconds with someone, because you don't want to feel like you're pitching your business. You want to build a connection. It's all about relationships. So if someone can really take that opportunity to perfect that and get comfortable talking to people they don't know. The second one would probably be just understanding all of the diversity of people that are here, what types of businesses we have, learning a little bit more about what's available. And then the third, WeBank and Oakland Thrive always do a really nice job of providing resources for women business owners or for business owners in general. So providing those opportunities, learning what resources are available. I've been in business for 9 years this year, but there are quite a few new businesses. So getting some new resources would be great.
I think it's very important that we find time to connect in person and make those genuine connections with other people, other women, other business owners and professional people. So I think it's super important that we have these types of events. It's kind of like the gym, like you don't always want to go, but then when you go, you're like super glad that you did. So if you kind of hesitate on the networking in person, you're an introvert or shy, it's still worthwhile to just, push yourself to go, because you just might make one really, really great connection. All it takes is one really great connection.
How great is it to see something like this event make its way to Greater West Bloomfield to help all of these women here tonight?
It's huge. First of all, there's not any other type of a organization like Oakland Thrive, like the other, resources that we have that are here as well. And, we're all in this all together, and through all of our services that we offer to our community, we make them better, we make them thrive, we make them successful.
I think it's extremely important, especially in today's day and age, to reach out and know that you have a community behind you. I think community is very important, and when you can find it in smaller communities around you, it will really help you grow in whatever you are doing, and finding just like-minded people around you is really important.
Annie is absolutely right. Community is very, very important. And networking is always one of those things where you don't realize how important it is until you realize how much you need it. So events like these, the Women Who Thrive event, are very, very crucial to build those ever important business bonds to help propel you to even greater success in the future. But big thank you to Women Who Thrive for allowing me to stop by and to capture some of the magic. Can't wait to see if any of those other events are going to be popping up throughout the year later on. And speaking of powerful businesswomen, a local professional is celebrating 5 years of service to the community. Tomorrow, June 5th, Karen Faith LLC is inviting the West Bloomfield community to an open house style anniversary event, providing tours of her practice space, an informal meet and greet, and allowing people to check out some very important resources. I recently spoke with Karen Faith Gordon herself on the program as she reflected on her accomplishments throughout the Greater West Bloomfield community. Karen, thank you so much for joining us here on the Splash Live.
Thank you, Jake. I appreciate you inviting me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Always love talking to you. And as you celebrate your 5-year anniversary, what are the most meaningful changes you've seen in how West Bloomfield families approach aging and caregiving?
Some of the most positive things that have occurred have been, number one, the growth in my caseload and the ability to support and guide as many people as I can along their aging journey. And through lectures and presentations and word of mouth, it's been really gratifying to see how many people have found my practice and how our business has been able to grow and serve more and more people.
That's right. Your business is helping so many people all throughout Greater West Bloomfield, and there's going to be a lot of things for them to experience at this open house event on June 5th. What do you hope participants will take away from the event, and how can neighbors best engage with you afterwards?
Their takeaway from the event will be to make connection with me and with other practitioners that also are in my space offering their services and expertise, whether it be through counseling or through yoga or through physical therapy. We are a space of wellness and holistic well-being, if you will. And so, yes, the cognitive piece, and also, yes, the physical piece. And so the takeaway will be connection. And the way in which we would love to engage further with people is by having them come to the groups that I offer, the classes that we offer, and to ask questions. We're here to answer the questions that you have. There are no wrong questions, and we are always happy to find the answers if we don't have them ourselves.
That is absolutely right. And you're talking about connections. That's such an important word you hear very, very often throughout Greater West Bloomfield. It truly is what binds each and everybody together through what they do. Now, how has expanding telehealth services, how has that influenced access to geriatric mental health care for West Bloomfield's older adults and their caregivers?
Thank you. That's a great question. It has really and truly been an invaluable way for people to access their mental health well-being, because there are many people who are homebound and or who are no longer driving and or who live across the state and wouldn't be able to travel to see me in West Bloomfield. So many of the people that I see are, yes, they are local and they may not have access to transportation. And so telehealth opens up that world to them that they would otherwise not have available. And then throughout the state, all over Michigan, I have clients calling and connecting through telehealth. It's very humbling to be able to be a source of comfort and guidance for so many people.
That's absolutely right. Being a big source of guidance for those older adults, like I mentioned, as well as their caregivers. And caregivers do so much. They take care of many, many things when it comes to the older adults of the community. And in our community, what unique challenges do you find caregivers facing? And how does group support help alleviate those stressors?
Another great question. Thank you for asking, Jake. Yes, caregivers are carrying a heavy load. And what I am seeing more and more often when you ask about the unique challenges is that I'm seeing younger and younger adults, young adults who are moving into their own midlife, who are sandwiched between their raising their own families, managing and navigating their own careers, and now coping with the changing needs of their parents and even sometimes their grandparents, and maybe even simultaneously. And the support groups that I run, what I think the greatest takeaway for people is, again, we come back to that word connection, right? I am so gratified that the one-on-one work I do with clients can help them. And I see tremendous value, and sometimes even more value, in the affirmation that comes through these shared experiences where people learn from each other.
All great things to take away from these experiences. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, I'm speaking with Karen Faith Gordon, the founder and owner of Karen Faith LLC, who is celebrating 5 years of service to the Greater West Bloomfield community and is inviting the West Bloomfield community to an open house style anniversary event that's going to be taking place on June 5th. Now, Karen, you cover a lot of things when it comes to your teachings. One of the big things you talk about is the effects of dementia and cognitive impairment. What are maybe some misconceptions about dementia and cognitive impairment that you encounter locally, and how can the community better support memory care needs?
Well, one of the biggest misconceptions is that every person's journey is going to look a certain way, and that's simply not the case. The dementia manifests itself in myriad ways, and if I saw 10 people in a day all diagnosed with dementia, I would see 10 different manifestations of it and all the nuances that go with that particular individual. And I think that is one of the greatest challenges for people who have been diagnosed and or who are caring for someone who has been diagnosed, is the heightened anxiety around what is going to be their trajectory. And so that is something that is challenging, and that I address with individuals and families all the time. And the greatest way that they can support both themselves and their loved one is by educating themselves. And whether it's through reading, I mean, the 36-hour day is a go-to for me and many of my clients. I'm always sharing books and resources with clients to add to their knowledge base, because truly dementia is a snowflake disease. There are no two that look alike. And that is something that that uncertainty can be a very challenging landscape for people to navigate.
You're certainly right. It's something that a lot of people have experienced with some of their family members. I've certainly had family members a long time ago who've suffered from dementia, and it's been heartbreaking to see. But important information like this is crucial so that everybody can help understand it for the future. Now, Karen, which local organizations, healthcare providers, or faith communities have you partnered with to extend your services, and where do you see opportunities for new collaborations in the future?
West Bloomfield Parks and Rec has been a wonderful partner throughout this past year. Through the funding of a grant, we've been able to provide monthly lectures at West Bloomfield Connect, and I have been able to host groups at my space at Karen Faith LLC that have been truly well attended and well appreciated. The feedback has been incredibly positive. Jewish Family Service has an incredible wealth of resources that I refer to all the time for people who are seeking cognitive ways to stimulate, engage, and sustain their cognitive reserves. So that's another resource that I really, it's a go-to for me. And many of the local senior centers are very, very integral to my work, because I'm one person, and my practice, I'm here to support as much as I can, and there is nothing better than being able to refer and encourage and recommend people to other sources that I know are of integrity.
Well, Karen, you have been doing a lot of great work for everybody all throughout Greater West Bloomfield. I got a couple more questions for you before we wrap things up. As you've been here for 5 years so far, as you look towards the next 5 years and even beyond that, What developments or programs are you most excited to bring to West Bloomfield to further enhancing ease and grace in aging?
I'm most excited, actually, Jake, about the opportunities to be out in the public, if you will, helping to educate and inform people. It is so. It gives me so much pleasure to be in spaces where I can offer information and invite questions and see what happens in the room when the energy shifts from fear to empowerment. And I really would like to see the growth of the practice, yes, to continue the mental health aspect, and yes, to continue to offer physical well-being through yoga or physical therapy or other classes that we can offer. I myself am very energized by being out in spaces where people are interested in learning more about the various joys and challenges of aging and really engaging with me and with each other around their own stories. Everyone has a story. And when I'm in front of an audience, I love to share mine and then invite others to share theirs and then watch as connection happens in the room.
You're certainly right. Every single person has a story, and we thank you for stopping by today and telling yours. One more quick question before we wrap things up. Where can people go to gain a little more information about your open house that's taking place on June 5th?
They can go to the website, karenfaith.llc. They're welcome to call the office, and we're going to be putting things on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and just spreading the word of mouth around the community. Yeah.
Well, can't wait to see what's to come from this great event, and can't wait to see what's to come with Karen Faith LLC for the next 5 years and beyond. Karen, thank you so much for joining us here on the Splash Live.
Thank you so much, Jake. It's truly a pleasure. Thank you.
We appreciate Karen Faith Gordon for everything she does for the Greater West Bloomfield community, and everyone's going to have the chance to thank her in person for everything that she's done at the open house taking place tomorrow. Can't wait to see what's to come from that. This weekend, the Greater West Bloomfield community will have the opportunity to spend some time outside and devote the day to celebrating nature. This Saturday is National Trails Day, and of course, our friends over at WB Parks have an incredible day full of fun planned for everyone. Here to tell us more is West Bloomfield Park Naturalist Supervisor Lauren Azuri. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. You know, I always love to talk about the great outdoors.
Of course, that's why we wanted you to join us today, because who better to talk about National Trails Day than you? Can you give us an overview of what West Bloomfield has planned for this incredible celebration this weekend?
Yeah, so we are proud to help and maintain a section of the Great Lake to Lake Trail, and that is what runs through West Bloomfield, our West Bloomfield Trail Network. It's 6.8 miles, but don't worry, you don't have to walk the whole thing or bike ride the whole thing. It's whatever is great for you and your family or your group of walkers. So you can join us starting at Walnut Creek Middle School at 8 a.m. We have awesome shirts. I have a collection of them over the years, but they're new and different every year. So we'll reveal that new design, and you can pick up your Trails Day shirt while supplies last between 8 and 8:30 at Walnut Creek Middle School. We're choosing that as our starting point at 8 a.m. because it's just right across the street from the start of the West Bloomfield Trail Network.
Awesome. That's going to be so great for everybody. I still have my shirt from last year's Trails Day celebration. I was out there getting footage throughout the whole thing, and you can see the footage right now if you're watching on civiccentertv.com. But I'd imagine that there's going to be a lot of great things that people can be a part of. Like what are some of the featured activities or events that attendees can look forward to?
Yeah, when you check in at the Walnut Creek Middle School, there'll be some giveaways and different activities. We'll have some education about trails and everything that West Bloomfield Parks has to offer, all the places you can enjoy trails in our community. We're also, as you walk down the trail and make your way, there'll be different naturalist education stations. So you'll learn a thing or two about the critters and things and plants growing that you might encounter along the way. So there's 4 nature education stops. And then we also are partnering with the League of Michigan Bicyclists. And so they'll be great to have on site at Arrowhead. So if you make your way down the trail and walk down a little further, you'll get to meet that group, and they will be great at educating anybody on bike safety and biking opportunities in our community. Because when you think of trails, it's not just for walking or hiking, it's for biking as well. And then we always, of course, if you want to have a good walk, you have to be caffeinated. So we do have a coffee cart on site, so you can purchase coffee at the beginning of the trail or at Arrowhead, where we have another nature stop as well. So opportunities for snacks and drinks, as well as great nature education and some great sponsorships with our League of Michigan Bicyclist Education Station as well.
Fantastic. Lots of great ways for everyone to stay active, which is very important now that the weather is really starting to get warmer and summer is quickly approaching. But I do want to know how this celebration helps promote trail stewardship and environmental awareness.
Yeah, so trail walking is great, or biking or hiking is great for exercise and for our mental health, and has lots of benefits. But of course, as part of the naturalist team, we always like to sneak in education about how we can keep these green spaces green and for their intended use for our environment and our ecology. So while you're walking on these trails, realize that we share them with lots of wildlife. There's turtle crossings and proper ways to help turtles across the road, which you'll learn about if you stop at one of our nature education stations on Trails Day. So we always want to be promoting and educating the public on great ways to help their environment, so that we do have these green spaces and these trail networks for ourselves to enjoy, but also for Mother Earth.
That's right. That's the basis of everything you guys are doing in helping out Mother Earth. And you just talked about some of the educational opportunities that are to come from some of these stations that are going to be set up all throughout the trail. Can you give us a little bit of a preview of maybe what people can learn from these stations specifically?
Yeah, we try to focus on seasonality. So what are you going to see while you're walking today? What are some of the things? Because that's really the really exciting thing about exploring trails and being out in nature, is that it's never the same. So it's always a fun experience, and it's always unique to the season or the day that you're out there, because the weather changes, ecology changes that day. So you never know what you're going to find. So we do try to tailor our nature stops to seasonality. And I know this time of year is a time of year where you see a lot of turtles crossing the road on the trail or leaving the wetlands to lay their eggs along the trail edges. So we definitely like to educate on that. We also like to teach people about different invasive species. So plants you see that might look pretty, but actually are harmful to the environment, and what you can do to help with those. And all different wildlife. So what kind of wildlife do you encounter this time of year? Another focus is often our frog friends. So we partner with Friends of the Rouge on lots of different conservation activities, and frog monitoring and listening for frog sounds helps us to know if our wetlands that are off of our trails are healthy or not. So we focus on a lot of those different things, but some invasive species, some of our slimy and scaly friends, as well as just what's happening outside in nature in June.
Man, I love a lot of those things you have implemented to really keep track of the nature throughout West Bloomfield Trail. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, I'm talking with West Bloomfield Park Naturalist Supervisor Lauren Uzuri about West Bloomfield Parks' upcoming National Trails Day celebration taking place this weekend. Now, Lauren, I do have an important question for you, and this might be a little tricky because you've been with West Bloomfield Parks for quite a while, but what is your favorite part of the West Bloomfield Trail system, and why?
So I'm a lover of wetlands. Wetlands sometimes, if you don't know what they are, what their function is in nature, get a bad rap. People think, oh, that's just dirty water, or, oh, there's just a lot of crazy plants growing there. But for us, wetlands absorb a lot of our pollution. Sometimes they are sponges, and they help our environment in that way. They're also nurseries, so many wildlife babies are born in wetlands. All of our frogs lay eggs in wetlands, our salamanders, our dragonflies. So wetlands are really the hub, and especially our vernal pools, those are the ones that are wet in the spring and then dry up in the summertime, have such high ecological value. And we're fortunate enough to have many of those wetlands and vernal pools just off of our trail network and within our West Bloomfield Nature Preserve as well. So I love wetlands. I love sitting near them and listening to all the sounds. I love teaching people the value of them and why they're important, and they're not just this, dirty water, and what they really provide. A lot of wildlife habitat, our blue herons and things that people love to view, call wetlands their home. So I love that our trail network has access to all those wetland viewing, and so that people can hopefully learn to appreciate them and keep them clean.
You're certainly right. Lots of very fascinating things hidden throughout the wetlands of Greater West Bloomfield. Now, we touched on this a little bit ago, but especially with, as I said before, with summer coming up and everyone wanting to get outside and stay active, how do the West Bloomfield trails contribute to the community's health and wellness all year round?
Yeah, easy access to green spaces is so important, and we're so fortunate in West Bloomfield and the Greater West Bloomfield area that we have that here. A lot of people can even just walk to some of the trails or parks from their backyards. I hear people say that all the time. Oh, I just live right over there, and I come visit all the time. And so we hope that all of these parks are open and available to everyone in the community, so that they are able to get out, get some deep breaths, and appreciate nature. And it does help our physical and mental health. So lots of options. So even if you're not able to join us on National Trails Day, please check out our website, wparks.org. There's a list of all of our parks. We have over 600, or just under 600 acres of parkland here in West Bloomfield that West Bloomfield Parks maintains and manages. So there's so many opportunities for access to green spaces and to nature and trails. So hopefully you can join us on Trails Day, but do know that there is, nature never closes. So most of our parks are open dawn to dusk, so it fits most people's schedules, and you can come and visit and enjoy those spaces at any time.
I love that. Nature never closes, and lots of greenery to check out all throughout Greater West Bloomfield. Lauren, I got one more quick question for you before we let you go. Out of everything, what do you hope people take away from participating in National Trails Day here in West Bloomfield?
I think when you participate in something as a group, a community group, you make connections. So these are great opportunities to connect with like-minded people that like to be outdoors, people that want to learn, people that are active and like to move their bodies, and biking or hiking or walking. So I always think our events are great to see people making connections and bringing people together. So when we're able to have an event like this and lots of people come to enjoy it together, bringing your friends, bringing your neighbors, bringing your family is great to show them why you love it or share your passion with others. So I love to see our events and people making connections. We've had plenty of programs where people have made friends and then they continue to stay in contact because their kids are going to one of the same classes over and over together. So just those connections over shared love of nature is always great to see.
Connections, that's what it's all about all throughout the Greater West Bloomfield community. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Thank you so much, Jake. We hope to see everyone out on the trails this weekend.
Absolutely. We will be there. Lots of great things to look forward to with West Bloomfield Parks and National Trails Day. Once again, that is taking place this Saturday, June 7th, here in Greater West Bloomfield. Lots of great stuff is on the horizon, and we've got plenty more things to get into right after this break. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Bringing you stories and memories from Kego Harbor. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those barbecues you plan in detail for your family? Or your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Hi, I'm Chris Fry, Park Superintendent, West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations, Civic Center TV, on 1 million views on YouTube. Thank you for all you do in the community, and thank you for having me on The Splash throughout the season to talk about activities out in the parks. Chris Fry, proud to be one in a million.
And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social. It's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. With the school year winding down, seniors have already bid high school farewell and are making the big jump to college. But the rising seniors of this year, the juniors, have a lot of work to do to prepare themselves for their own senior year. One of the biggest things on their to-do list is, of course, senior pictures, which should be getting taken sooner rather than later. We recently spoke with Doug and Allie Cohen, the co-owners of Frameable Faces, to tell us some tips for rising seniors on preparing themselves for their photos. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Hey there. How are you?
I'm great. Really happy to have you with us, and really excited to be getting into this conversation. It's an important one to be having around this type of year. Doug, we're going to start with you. What are some of the most important things rising seniors should consider when choosing a photographer for their senior portraits?
Well, there's several things. I think they should consider the process that the photographer brings to the table. So I would say that and the personality of the photographer are two really important things. So when I say the process, you want a photographer that's going to hold your hand through the whole process, meet with you ahead of time, get to know you, and genuinely seem interested in creating something that is about you for your senior pictures that will be really all about capturing your personality, and that they have some ideas about how they go about their craft. Like, you can tell the difference between somebody who's really engaged and really committing to creating something special for you, as opposed to somebody who might not quite have all the experience, doesn't really know the right questions to ask, or doesn't really seem to have a game plan. So you definitely want to be, as you sort through the photographers that you either talk to or meet with, the ones that really have a plan and are really committed to creating something special. And then also just in terms of how you connect with them. You know, if you feel a connection to your photographer, that's going to come through in the photos. You know, that there's a lot to be said for how comfortable you are and how you feel about the person who's taking your photos. If there's no connection there, it'll look like there's no connection there. So that's one thing I would start with, just in terms of figuring out who your photographer is going to be.
That's absolutely right. Connection is very important. And I do have to say, connection was not an issue on my end, because my mom actually worked at a photography studio for many years. So she was very on top of things and made sure that I got my senior photos done in a timely manner. I also got them done for free. But more importantly, Allie, I'm going to go to you next. How far in advance should students book their senior photo session, especially if they maybe want seasonal backgrounds, like maybe fall foliage or spring blooms?
So we are already booking for the class of 2026 right now. We've actually been booking, I think the first senior we booked for the class of 2026, I believe, was in February of this year.
Oh, wow.
And it was for that reason. She wanted a specific season. So she wanted the fall colors, and she wanted to make sure that she got there in the peak of fall colors. So she booked early. She had her choice of time. And that enabled her to, if something happens, because we do live in Michigan, and in the fall it could be 80, 90 degrees. It could be really cold. It could be rainy. So she's got that flexibility now because her session is already booked. So we've got that flexibility to move around if we need to accommodate her and what she envisioned for her senior photos.
Man, people already making the jump and getting those appointments booked. Very important to do so, as you both said. And for when students want these photos taken, I'm sure they want to show a little bit of their personality in these photos. They want to make them stand out. So, a question for you, Doug. How can students incorporate their personality or maybe their hobbies or interests into their session to make the photos feel a little more authentic?
Well, we always say that there's different categories of personality for the seniors when we try to present it to them and give them some options and talk it through. Like, are you, somebody who gravitates towards nature? And do you want to be out on a trail with trees and water behind you and something really pretty? Or do you want something more edgy, in the city, in alleyways where there's where it's not real clean looking and there's graffiti on the walls, but that can be a really cool look too. And that can be something that really can kind of define how a senior feels about who they are and what kind of personality they have. And then in terms of their interests, they can bring those into the picture as well. So if they are a musician and they're in their orchestra or their band, they can incorporate their instrument. If they're an athlete, we can take one of a football or a basketball or a volleyball and have a flame coming off of it and do some really gritty stuff that really brings out, their competitive nature in the sport that defines them, or whatever it might be. So we talk all of that through ahead of time to find out what they're into. And if what they're into is important enough for them to bring it into those photos, and then we can go to a location, whether it's a stadium that they play in, outdoors, for example, or we can do it here in our studio because we have a brick and mortar here in the Orchard Mall. So we have that advantage of having an indoor studio, and we can create some things on different backdrops indoors as well. So we really plan that out ahead of time in a very consultative way so that we accomplish what they're looking to get.
That's right. And you said it yourself, the indoor studio definitely has a lot of benefits, as you don't have to worry about weather interfering with photos and possibly causing some issues. So you're absolutely right. Lots of things to consider. Allie, I'm going to go to you next. Can you walk us through what a typical senior photo session with you looks like from preparation to final delivery?
Absolutely. So from the very beginning, before we even start the session, we will have the senior or rising senior and or one or both parents or guardians come into the studio where we'll meet. We'll kind of plan out that photo session, ask all the questions. What do you see? If you could design your perfect session, what would you want to do? So we can give suggestions, but these aren't our senior photos. These are the seniors' senior photos. So we want to know what is important to that senior. So we get all that information. We have then a design, perks of working at home, a design consultation where we plan out outfits. I can go shopping personally with the senior and the parent. I can do it virtually. Send me outfits, send me anything. We'll make outfits that way. Then the day of the session, hair and makeup, if needed, is done. And we've got a variety of people on staff, at our disposal, that will help to do that. Then the day of the photo session comes, everybody's very excited. We have a dressing room set up for the senior in the studio. And then we hit it. So usually it's about, maybe 1/3 of studio work, and then we are off to the races on location. There are times where we do all studio sessions or all location sessions. All sessions with us are fun, and we make sure of that because by the time that session comes, we know who our senior model is, who our models are, and we are able to connect with these people. So it's always a good time, and that's how we yield the best results. So usually after the session's over, we end it with hugs, and it's not uncommon to grab dinner or dessert or a snack or something with us at the end of our sessions. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We are all encompassing, and we really put our arms around our people and make sure that they have a really good time that yield the very best results.
Man, everything sounds like a well-oiled machine. I can imagine that you guys are going to be very, very busy in the coming months. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, we have the co-owners of Frameable Faces in West Bloomfield, Doug and Allie Cohen, as well as their cat, joining us right now on the Splash Live, talking about preparations for senior photo seasons for these upcoming seniors, the rising seniors. And I'd imagine that when it comes to taking photos, maybe not all the time things go perfectly. What are some common mistakes or regrets you hear from students after their senior photo sessions, and how can they avoid these mistakes? Doug?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, the obvious one would be that, sometimes people will come to us for a session to correct one that they might have already had because they went with somebody that they shouldn't have, or they weren't happy with the results, and they didn't, listen, without getting cheesy about this point, okay, you get what you pay for. And sometimes people will go to somebody who's more or less an amateur, and everybody has to start somewhere. But, if they think they're getting a deal because someone's going to meet them on location somewhere, take a bunch of pictures and hand them a disc, and they're done, and that's it, and it's cheap, it's probably going to look and feel cheap, and you're probably not going to get the best results. It's just the way it is. And sometimes we have to correct sessions that were done with the wrong photographer. So, and listen, like I said, everyone has to start somewhere. I'm not disparaging people who are just getting going in their photography business, but the ease of entry to this business is a factor that wasn't quite there maybe 20 years ago, and a lot of people think they're a photographer, but they're not really. So sometimes we have to correct those, and people are like, "Yep, we should have come to you in the first place," and then we end up doing another session for them. That's unfortunately a relatively common mistake. But beyond that, I don't know. I guess maybe they didn't plan enough with their wardrobe, or maybe for the girls, they made a decision not to get their makeup done, for example, and maybe they, because they were afraid that it would look too clownish, and they're not used to wearing makeup. And we always encourage them to do that, because if you go to the right makeup artist, they can make it look so that you still look natural. So sometimes people don't make that choice, and then they regret that. But we like to think that we cover all of those things because of the way we approach everything. And that also goes for, on the back end when it comes to products, because we have an ordering meeting with our clients where they come back in and they view the images with us on a big screen. We can virtually show them what their images will look like on their wall, and we really walk them through that part of it too, so that they get quality art to put on their walls that they can appreciate. You can't really get that from somebody who just hands you a thumb drive.
You're absolutely right. Lots of things to look out for, and that's why taking these photos, it's an intricate process, and it's important that you make sure that everything goes the way you want it to, and you guys absolutely help in accomplishing a lot of these things for these rising seniors. I got one more question for both of you before we let you go. What should seniors look for when reviewing and selecting their final images for yearbooks, prints, or graduation announcements once everything is said and done with taking the photos? Allie, we'll start with you.
Personality, 100% personality. So as a parent, I've had 2 kids go through their senior photos that I did for free, mind you, just like you. And my favorite shots are the ones where you can see their faces. Bodies in full length are wonderful from the parent perspective. That's great. But I want to see my kid's face. I want to see my student's face, because that's what gets me as the mom. The kids, from what I've told, they want stuff that shows their style, shows who they are. If it's the boho chic, if it's the gritty athlete, if it's the pretty princess in the field of flowers, that's what they want to see, and that's what they want to show. So like Doug said, when we have our first meeting, we drill down and we get to know what our seniors want, and then that's what we give them, and then we can help guide them through the process of selection. When it comes to yearbooks, though, those are pretty rigid parameters, and the schools all set those, and those are pretty standard. It's usually a gray background, sometimes a blue, something, I tell everybody, the guys suit and tie, the girls don't wear black, everybody wears black. 9 out of 10 girls that I tell to not wear black come to the studio wearing black. So it's fine. It always looks good. And yeah, so that's it. Mostly personality to me.
Doug, same question.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that's really important is for the senior and for the parents to go into this prepared to compromise a little bit. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of compromise. And sometimes we can fill that role a little bit as mediator, as long as we, because we try not to take a complete side with the parent or the senior. And what I mean by that is, sometimes you'll have a senior who comes in and sees a photo of themselves that they don't like because they're smiling really big and they think they're cheesing too hard. And the mom is like, well, no, but I love your smile. I want to see your smile. And the senior wants it to be more straight-faced and edgy. And the mom says, well, when I see you looking like that, I see you giving me attitude. And then so there's sometimes there's a disconnect between the parent and the senior a little bit, but it's okay to have a little of both and to go into it knowing that you're probably going to, if you really want everybody to be happy, go into it knowing that it's okay to have a little compromise. The parents don't necessarily have to get every image that they want exactly how they want it, and the senior needs to have a little bit of flexibility with their parents as well. If they both get some of what they want, then everybody will be happy. And if they go into it knowing that that's going to be a piece, then it might be easier for them to be prepared emotionally, mentally for that.
Of course, it's a team effort. Everybody wants the same goal to make these photos look as amazing as they can be, and you guys absolutely do that. Doug, Allie, thank you both so much for joining us today here on The Splash Live.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Lots of photos are going to be taken within the next few months as people get ready for their own senior year and get ready to have those pictures available for everybody to see. So we appreciate Doug and Allie Cohen for stopping by and for giving us all this important information on what people should be looking forward to and being aware of when it comes to getting their senior photos. School nurses serve as the first line of defense in ensuring student health and safety during the school day, managing injuries, illnesses, and chronic health conditions like asthma or diabetes. We recently spoke with the school health nurse consultant for Oakland Schools, Becky Rosbolt, to hear why school nurses are so important to the community.
Becky Rosbolt, thank you for being here, Becky.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We appreciate that first and foremost. You providing a little bit more insight and perspective. Now, I just want to get straight into it. As a school health nurse consultant, how do you support Oakland County's 28 school districts?
So a couple of ways. With the school districts that have school and district nurses, I really provide support to them. Support, mentorship, guidance, educational opportunities. We have monthly meetings where we meet as a group to collaborate and have guest speakers that provide resources and educational opportunities. I have a weekly newsletter of educational offerings for them. And in our districts that don't have school nurses, I'm able to provide support, consultation, and provide that education directly to our staff at the school.
Good, okay. Okay, and I would imagine they need that support, they utilize that support, and it all helps with everyone, their end user as well. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe, you cover a lot of different school districts, but, you don't have too much experience in this position specifically, but I do want to ask, what are some of the most common health challenges you're seeing among students across Oakland County, including Greater West Bloomfield?
Sure. I think this translates from district to county to state to country. We have what's called the Big Four, and you mentioned a couple of them already, but asthma, food allergies, diabetes, and seizures are really our most common health conditions we see in the schools. And staff really needs to be trained on those conditions, how to respond in an emergency, and how to give rescue meds if they're needed.
Oh, okay. Interesting to know, first and foremost. A lot of different things. I'm going to be honest with you. I had no idea diabetes was even a problem in the schools amongst the youth, but that's interesting to know. Now, what educational support do you provide to these local districts as well? Education being a very important resource as well.
Of course. And, I can provide many different trainings. First and foremost, every school really needs medication administration training because we give medications on a daily basis to our students, or just giving those rescue medications. In addition, I can provide MERT team training, which is a medical event response team. And that sort of goes a level above CPR, first aid, AED, and it goes into those Big Four, and they get hands-on training on how to administer the meds, along with bleeding control and naloxone or Narcan training. I can provide assistance with cardiac drills that the schools want to conduct to sort of practice through a scenario, and I can provide guidance, feedback and debrief afterward with them, let them know where they did well and where they need some more help. And then, of course, any of those individual conditions, the Big Four, things like cancer, sickle cell anemia, cystic fibrosis, migraines, any of those conditions I'm able to help provide training for the staff for.
Good. Give them a little bit more help and be that extra source that they need if they are, curious about how to address certain things as well. Love to hear that. And want to dig a little bit more into that as well. But with me right here live on The Splash, by the way, school health nurse consultant for Oakland Schools, Becky Rosbolt, just talking about the role of a nurse and nurse consultant in our local schools as well. Now, I just want to reiterate the difference, right? Nurse and a nurse consultant. The nurse is actually there doing the work. You're the consultant. You're there, like I said, resource and their person of information. So what does being a school health nurse consultant mean to you personally and professionally?
Well, I'll tell you, school nursing itself is my life's passion. I was a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital of Michigan for 17 years, came over to school nursing about 11 years ago, and seeing that full circle moments of, our kids in the hospital that were so sick are now in their schools, learning and socializing with friends. It really is heartwarming to see that. I'm fascinated by that connection between health and academic success. I really put everything into my work, and I reap the benefits with families and making a difference in kids' lives. As the school health nurse consultant, I get to sort of broaden that out to a much higher level at the county, where I'm able to, again, provide the supports to our district nurses and our schools that don't have nurses.
Yeah, it makes sense now that you put it out there, because when you're a single school nurse working, you're pretty much focused on the micro level. But in your position, I would imagine it's more of a macro level. Like you said, you're just doing it on a bigger scale type of situation. So it's really making a bigger impact than what you were doing before, and we appreciate that as well. Now, we talk about the physical ailments and things that the children or the youth may come to the nurse about. But what about the mental? What role do school nurses play in addressing the mental health concerns among students?
Sure. School nurses have extensive training in mental health, and really them working together in an interdisciplinary team with our school social workers, our school counselors, our psychologists, our behavioral interventionists really helps round out the care for the students and provide the most support.
Okay. And I would imagine, let me not imagine. Can you tell me how this has evolved in recent years? Because just from my recollection, mental health just in general as a phrase or a concept is fairly new, relatively new within the last maybe 10, possibly 15 years. So how has the mental health concerns or addressing it evolved over the last few years?
I really think COVID made a big impact with kids being at home, not able to socialize. And then, of course, social media plays a big role, too. That that part can be helpful and harmful, right? We see social media addiction, social media bullying, things like that. So really looking at that, we are seeing an uptick of mental health issues in our schools.
Interesting. So I would imagine that would entail more training is needed, more perspective, more research, and things of that nature as we continue to move forward. So thank you again for providing that. One thing you mentioned I want to touch on, if you don't mind, the COVID thing. That's still just a few years removed, and we still have some kids that's kind of like coming through that or whatever the case may be. So can you just talk about how school nurses help in those large, impactful health situations like dealing with COVID, post-COVID or whatever?
Sure. I mean, with COVID or any other communicable disease, we really provide a lot of guidance to the school on, what symptoms and situations do students need to stay home and take time and recover, and when it's safe for them to return to the school community. We really collaborate closely with Oakland County Health Division on that guidance and getting direction from them, with any communicable disease issues.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine. And I mean, that was the worst case scenario with COVID and everything, right? But it still teaches us a lesson on how to prepare, how to respond, and how to, carry about, different methods and procedures for those type of situations on different scales as well. So thank you again for that. With me right here live on The Splash, by the way, school health nurse consultant for Oakland Schools, Becky Ross-Bolt, just talking about the role of the school nurses and the importance of them as well. Don't want to hold you up too much longer, just a few things to inquire about. You talked about families as well, working with families. So how do you collaborate with local West Bloomfield or Oakland County families and educators to ensure that our students are receiving the care and support they need?
Again, in my role as that nurse consultant, I'm really going to be able to provide support, consultation to schools, especially with our students with chronic health conditions, provide education and training to the school staff to help support those students throughout the day, and be able to provide resources for them in the community that they may need.
Good. And lastly, just want to ask you if there's a message that you want to get out to West Bloomfield parents and students, or just Oakland County parents and students, for them to better understand the role and value of school nurses.
For sure. Often school nurses aren't really seen on the forefront. We do have some schools that have one school nurse, but the majority of Michigan districts have one nurse for multiple buildings. So they're really more behind the scenes providing support to the staff. We work through a whole child lens. So we look at the child through a lens of cognitive, emotional, behavioral, mental, and social needs. So we work with that interdisciplinary team to really remove barriers and help that child reach their full academic potential. We develop plans of care to help with our kids with chronic illness throughout the school day. We train the staff to deliver that care. We collaborate with school staff in academic accommodation meetings like 504 plans for our kids in general education, and then individualized education plans for our students that need a little more academic support. We assist with disaster planning, threat assessments, compliance, mental health, as you mentioned, and of course that communicable disease component where we really provide guidance to the school staff and work collaboratively with the health division.
Sounds like you all are ready and prepared for any and everything, and that's what we appreciate you all for. And thank you again for your time and your information. Once again, school health nurse consultant for Oakland Schools, Becky Ross-Bolt. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate the school nurses for everything they do for the kids of our community. But that's going to do it for us today here on The Splash Live. I want to say a big thank you to all of our guests and for our entire team for helping to make this show happen every single day. I've been your host, Jake Schaff. Live, local, social. It's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.